The newspaper is about 145 years old. We are the current caretakers of it, but it has been owned by Georgetown people since its inception in 1877. I'm Clark Thurmond. I am the co-publisher with my wife, Linda Scarbrough, of the Williamson County Sun. I had always been a newspaper reader, but I was not involved in the newspaper business. And I met Linda.
Don Scarbrough's announced arrival of new staff member, Linda C. Scarbrough. This was her birth announcement. Mr. and Mrs. Don Scarbrough, co-publishers of the Taylor Times, announced Wednesday afternoon that a new staff member had been added to the hard-working group. The new member is young, aggressive, invasion-minded Linda Claire Scarbrough, who arrived in Austin Wednesday afternoon, May 10th. Rather tired and non-committal after her long trip, Linda Claire was nevertheless headed for the important position of yell leader at the Times office.
Yeah, that is journalism at its finest.
I had been living in New York and was in the process of coming back to Georgetown. And I was trying to think of stories for my dad. I wanted to do skydiving as sort of the last frontier. So Donna and I went out, we met Clark, and he was running this skydiving school. So we had an interview and we met over at a barbecue place. And about 2.5 hours later, the people were dragging the chairs around and cleaning all the tables around us, and we were just talking. And that's how it got started.
We dated for a good while, and then we married. I continued in the jumping business, and she was moving into the newspaper. One day her dad came and said, we want to sell the newspaper. You know, we're ready to retire. Or if you kids want to go together and buy it, we'll do that. So that's how we ended up buying the newspapers, that I had the business experience and Linda had the editorial, the news writing experience.
Linda and Clark are such a valuable resource to have here at the newspaper and in the community. There are not many community newspapers out there that are still locally owned by local publishers who have been in the community for as long as they have. And Linda and Clark both, their institutional knowledge of Georgetown and Williamson County, you can go up to either of them and ask them a question and they'll give you exactly who to talk to. They'll give you the background and the history of the county. Linda's book and her mom's book are great references for us, even in staff.
Her book, Land of Good Water, was recognized by the Texas State Historical Association as the best book of history in Texas in 1973. What several people at the Texas Historical Association told me was that it absolutely upped the game. There was just a new level to shoot for, and that she was just sort of a goddess to them. When I was working on my book, Daddy, he said, you should follow up your mom's book. And I can't tell you how many hundreds of people said, we love your maps and the book itself. Thank you, because now we have a whole different way of looking at the county. In 2005, the National Council for Public History, they had just started giving their award for the best book on public history, and Road and River was the second of those awards given in the years right after they created it. Really proud of them.
When you're holding the paper and looking at it, it's hard to understand how much went into it and how many things almost didn't work.
From the get-go, he was always saying names, 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 and faces, faces, faces. Get our folks named, get them photographed, and get those in the paper.
I think that is all part of the newspaper's function in constantly sort of introducing the people of the town
to each other. Yes.
And that conversation, and that's a conversation of everyday life.
If you want to be involved in the community, this is where you come. This is the heartbeats. This is where you get all that information that you would normally have access to. The Williamson County Sun has been the glue that keeps our wonderful small town together.
The fact that the Sun is such an old establishment and to date one of the few, publications left in Texas of its kind, and has been for so many years so decorated, I'm incredibly proud to be part of that legacy. And the fact that it's been a reliable source of news for this county for so long and still continues to be. It is the authority. I don't really think any of the other publications that are outsourced can come close to knowing the degree of information about the county. And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the integrity that it's upheld through the years.
A free press, it depends on the agreement of its readers and viewers.
And the attempt is to be as neutral and unbiased as possible.
Now, Linda tends to be, she's been a longtime Democrat, and I've been a longtime Republican. That difference of approach helps us be a little bit broader.
Something that we do here and that Clark and Linda have really been good at is following up on stories. Back when Georgetown signed the renewable energy contracts, we just constantly were following the paper trail, constantly following up on seeing what bills looked like, what cost looked like, how much energy we were really getting.
The big thing about that timeline was that it gave a really good view of what happens when you don't have transparency.
Once those facts started being reported, there was a huge response, and it provoked radical change.
I'm just proud in general of their accomplishments with all of their writing. I think that was in large part what inspired me. It's a very humbling and inspiring legacy that you guys leave.